did. The research in optimism is pretty clear. Optimistic people tend to live longer. They tend to have better immune systems. They tend to accomplish more. But the downside of optimism is usually they don't see reality very well. But you seem to be one of these pragmatic optimists that are gifted with being committed to reality at the same time, having a belief that you can do almost anything.
Yeah, I have often used exactly that phrase. I am a practical optimist or a pragmatic optimist. I think the trick is not just being at a fixed place in terms of reality focused or possibility focused. It's another way I think about it is what's the reality versus the potential or the possibility. So pragmatism versus optimism. It's knowing when to turn them down and up. And that I learned in my early days opening restaurants and communicating to different groups of people. Just because there is a list of things that are possible doesn't mean I need to focus on all of them at one given point in time. And things we're going through right now are an example of that. There's a ton of possibility in the world of retail, but my franchisees of mall-based locations aren't necessarily experiencing all of that possibility right now. And it's not thoughtful or emotionally intelligent or empathetic leadership to focus only on the possible. Right now, they need their leadership to focus on the reality, on the pragmatic side of the business, but not forget to bring in the possibility. So yes, I am a practical or pragmatic optimist, but at any given point in time, that scale may shift a bit based on what the humans need or the situation or the market dictates.
But you optimists are only 1/3 of the population, which makes you very annoying to the rest of us.
Wow.
But how do you lead other leaders into that mindset? Because the research is pretty clear. We can become optimists.
Yeah. I lead other leaders with that mindset by asking questions. Leading other leaders means they need to lead, and telling them to be more positive or to focus on the bright side moves no mountains. So I have learned in some cases by getting lucky, other cases by mistakes. And remember, I wasn't always a leader. So I remember being led by other leaders. And even as a leader, I have bosses, I have leaders. So I am the recipient as well as the deliverer of leadership on a regular basis. And I'm constantly trying to pay attention to what it feels like to receive in order to improve how I give. And for me, it's asking the right questions. And sometimes the questions are about perspective. So if I notice a leader is in too much of a practical place and not bringing forward the optimism that I believe is required in the moment, then instead of saying, you need to cheer up, buddy, or you need to smile, I'll say, how does this compare to the competition? What are some examples where this is worse and why? And just ask the question so that leaders can lead themselves in order to be better leaders of others. And I have the opposite, as you pointed out, it can be annoying. I have some leaders that are overly optimistic when they need to face reality, and maybe there's a disconnect between them and their teams at any given point in time. And so I will need to ask them questions or share stories that force them to confront reality. And then again, ask questions, what might be a better way to connect to the reality of your teams without losing the vision you're trying to convey. And leading through questioning. It's not that I don't direct. Sometimes the situation calls for a very directive communication, but what I have learned is good leaders, certainly great leaders, but just good leaders respond very well to being led through the range of optimism and pragmatism through humility and curiosity of asking the right questions.